What's going on, everybody? Today's actually my birthday, so in celebration, I'm going to be giving out some crypto. So just leave a comment in the comment section below, and you might be chosen for this giveaway. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Now, as many of you probably know, DeFi has become the hottest trend here in crypto land. This is actually the continuation of a trend that's been going on for the better part of about 2 years. But this whole DeFi thing has recently surged to an entirely new level. Everywhere I turn, crypto influencers, blockchain content creators, anyone who's really in the space is weighing in on DeFi and publishing their own strategies for how best to take advantage of this explosive new trend. Seasoned DeFi experts have been publishing threads on how essentially people can earn up to 100% APR lending on these new DeFi platforms. It may boggle the mind how this is possible, that you could double your money simply lending out assets, specifically assets that don't even have volatility, like USD pegged stablecoins. We're going to get into all that and more, and what's so exciting and attractive, also what's so risky about these new DeFi trends, and hopefully if you're uninitiated or you're looking to learn more about DeFi, this video will bring you a ton of good information. If you're excited for this video, do me a favor and hit that like button, and let's begin. Some of these gains that people are experiencing are shocking and sort of remind me of crypto in 2017 in the altcoin space. Stuff just didn't necessarily add up, and at least in the case of 2017, it ended up being a bubble. Now, I'm not saying that DeFi right now is a bubble, but right now I'm saying it's an exciting time in this segment of the crypto industry, and for that reason, you need to know all about it. In following on the theory that this is like the altcoin season of 2017 in the DeFi space, this means two very specific things. Firstly, pumps are coming. That's right, pumps are definitely coming to this space, and there's going to be a lot of outsized profits that are being made within this sector of crypto over the next few weeks, months, years. And of course, with those exacerbated pumps comes an increased risk of crashes, other types of nefarious activity like scams and bugs and exploits. All those things we're going to cover, and please bear in mind throughout this episode, I'm not a financial advisor and this is not financial advice. This is just me synthesizing a lot of complex information about what's going on in the DeFi space and serving it up to you in a way that's easy to comprehend and internalize. Today, we're going to be focusing on one of the most important players in this new explosive trend in DeFi, and that's, of course, Compound. Now, if you're deeply engaged in the DeFi space, you'll know all about Compound. But for those who are not so initiated or maybe have heard about it but still have questions, we're going to go through how Compound works and some of the more gamified strategies that people have been using to maximize their ROI, their yielding, and their mining of these new governance tokens. There's a lot to take in here, so we're going to go one step at a time. Compound.finance, also known as Compound, is a brand new platform and protocol built on Ethereum, which allows for money markets to happen. This is an awesome article that I'm going to walk you through that explains Compound in simplistic terms, and then we can talk about some really advanced behaviors that people are doing built on top of this system. First and foremost, Compound Finance is an algorithmic open source protocol that allows for the creation of money markets on the Ethereum blockchain. Like we've been saying, a money market is where people can lend or borrow, and there are different types of interest rates associated with each behavior. Money markets are pools of tokens with algorithmically determined interest rates that are based on the supply and demand of that token in a given money market. Participants of the protocol can largely be placed into two groups: suppliers and borrowers, meaning either you're supplying new liquidity to the network or you're borrowing existing liquidity from the network. Now, it's important to realize you're not actually borrowing and lending from a specific person. You're borrowing and lending from the platform itself. There is a central body here creating pools of money. Now, that comes with some added bonuses. With the Compound Finance protocol, a user's token is not matched and lent to another user. Instead, those wishing to lend will lend to the protocol itself. This lending mechanism also means that users that do decide to supply funds to the protocol are able to withdraw their tokens at any time. You can open and close these flash loans at any moment. They do not have to wait for a specific loan to mature in order to recover their lent funds. So while you can open and close at any time, the market moves in real time and everybody gets the same rates that are algorithmically determined. Now, as far as borrowing tokens is concerned, with Compound Finance protocol, users are able to borrow an asset directly from the protocol by simply specifying the asset they wish to borrow. Each money market will also have a floating interest rate that determines the cost of borrowing that asset. The Compound Finance Protocol also enforces a rule that stipulates a user's account must have a balance that more than covers the amount of borrowed funds. So you have to be fully collateralized here. Essentially, you can only borrow a certain amount based on the amount of assets you already have in your account. You can't borrow more than you actually have. And that's why you don't need to trust the counterparty, because the counterparty at any time has the collateral already committed in the network that they actually cannot default on their loan. Instead, if their account falls out of balance with the liquidation limit, their account might just be liquidated and those funds return to borrowers. This rule is known as the collateral ratio, and a user cannot initiate action, for example, borrowing or withdrawing assets that would bring a user's account value below that collateral ratio. This is the way the code and math prevents people from defaulting on their loans. It's not about evaluating how trustworthy you are as a person, but it's a simple evaluation of whether or not you have the assets to cover the loan. The Compound Finance Protocol also uses a price oracle, which keeps track of the current exchange rate of each supported digital asset on the platform. And of course, we know all about price oracles, and they're so critical here in the decentralized finance world, bringing a lot of excitement and hype to projects like Chainlink and other decentralized oracles, as they are critical to this entire process. Now, the interest rate is one that is determined algorithmically, which is based on the supply and demand of the asset in a given money market. When there is a shortage of liquidity, low supply, high borrowing demand, then the interest rates will likely be high because there's a lot of people who want to borrow that asset, so more and more will accept a higher interest rate. Obviously, the opposite is true. If there's not a lot of demand, then people probably won't be paying too much interest to borrow that asset. The interest rate mechanism differs to alternative peer-to-peer lending platforms where individual suppliers or borrowers usually have to negotiate terms over the interest rates of loans. Now, it's also possible that if your account falls out of balance, meaning that the collateral you supplied goes down in value, meaning the asset you borrowed goes way up in value, and your collateral can no longer match that value to the right collateral ratio. This is a big reason why there's a lot of risk here, and your account can be liquidated. That is one of the critical differences here between lending some money into a bank or borrowing some money from a bank and doing this in the DeFi ecosystem, is that code is very much so unemotional, and if you fall outside the lines of the rules, your account can be liquidated to prevent losses from being incurred on the other side. This is unfortunately the way it has to be. It can lead to some seriously negative results if you're not very sure of the risk of the loans you're taking on. For this reason, we see a ton of borrowing and lending action happening around stablecoins because the volatility on the underlying assets is usually within a couple of percent. You really don't see Tether fall much below 99, 98% of its normal value on any given day. In the end, these underlying assets are not supposed to be as volatile, and that will allow for people to have more security in the loans. But as you can see, there's a lot of layers to this. If you're lending out Ethereum and you're right about at your collateral ratio, and then your Ethereum just drops tremendously in value, then the monetary value of your collateral could have dropped tremendously, putting you in danger of being liquidated. These are just some of the reasons why the risk is significantly higher in the DeFi space and why significantly higher yields on interest rates are possible, because there is existential risk here. So now that you understand what Compound is, let's take a look at their market so you can start to see this in real time. Here you can see they have a BAT market, an Ether market, a USD coin market, which is the coin of Coinbase, Tether, of course, DAI, the algorithmically pegged stablecoin of the Maker DAO ecosystem, 0x, Augur, Wrapped BTC, and Legacy DAI. Now, each one of these has a certain gross supply of the amount of money that's actually locked up in this market. As you can see, BAT has about $261 million locked up in it, and there's a good reason, because people are making a 24.93% interest rate as an annualized percentage rate here on this market. That means people really want to borrow this. However, if you borrow it, you're going to owe a 32.6% interest rate as an annualized percentage yield. Now, Compound Finance just changed the whole dynamic of this borrowing and lending mechanism by introducing their own governance token, Comp. Now, this Comp token started off really as not holding an inherent price. They're not selling this token. They're simply awarding it to people who are borrowing and lending, creating liquidity on their network. And in exchange for creating that liquidity on the network, people are receiving this comp governance token. Now, the reason why this comp governance token is so important is that there's a variety of proposals that are now being taken over by the community to implement true decentralization here. They're allowing the community itself to vote on different adjustments to the way that this platform operates. For example, here are the recent proposals that have been proposed on the comp network: adjusting comp distribution speed to match Ethereum network block time and increasing higher risk assets reserve factor. So they're saying, hey, we want the distribution speed to match the Ethereum block time. Why? Because the Ethereum block time is how these actual rewards are being distributed. It's built on Ethereum, so they need Ethereum blocks to make this whole thing move. And then also they're saying, hey, we want to increase the higher risk asset reserve factor, meaning they want these higher risk assets to have a higher collateralization ratio, meaning less risk for the actual lender and a higher burden for the borrower to be able to borrow those assets. And you can see that this is queued. However, it has not been voted on. You can see here that the set reserve factor for CUSDT to 20% was executed on June 25th. That's literally today. So you can see that these proposals are actually very important and significant as to how the platform operates and handles various different aspects of its money markets. So having a voice here is significant. Now, putting a price on that voice is a little trickier to do, but you know, a free market is a free market and it will find its price. We saw as the comp token hit the market that it rose dramatically from $64 all the way up to $360 pretty much before dipping back down to $214 and now up again to $220. This thing is moving like a rocket ship, and the reason is because there's so much excitement around this platform, and now adding in this layer of mining this governance token completely changes what's going on in these money markets. Now, you might be asking, how do I take advantage of it? So here you can see I'm on InstaDApp. Essentially, to get where I am, you have to create an account and then you have to load it up with some funds. Bear in mind that you're going to need ETH for all the transaction fees, and so you want to keep a little ETH on the side so you can power all these fees. And I suggest you guys start with DAI. That's definitely the most strategic way to start. And what you want to do is you want to deposit that DAI into your compound account. And so it goes first into your dashboard, and then here's my dashboard, and then it'll go into your, you click on compound up here and you can get it into your compound account. And here you see I donated, like $180. And you want to click on this tool right here, which is the Maximize Comp Mining tool. Now, this is where you can really start to try to gamify the system. And if you think the comp token is going to go up, you can mine some more comp this way. Obviously, this is something that a lot of people are now focusing on. So you're not going to be the first ones to the party, but this is potentially a viable strategy. If you think comp could go onward and upward much higher and you really want to get your hands on some comp, this is an interesting way to do it by lending and borrowing. This tool essentially combines 3 different actions into one. It takes my collateral here of the DAI and it uses the collateral to borrow. We're going to borrow Tether because it's more beneficial. So we're going to borrow USDT as debt. Then we're going to swap that USDT back into DAI, and we're going to deposit the DAI as collateral. And so what it's doing here is, even though I only have 184 DAI and the actual collateral ratio, the collateral factor here is 0.75, which means I should only be able to borrow 75% of what I have here. And if you're good at math, that would mean, less than 150 bucks here. When you click on this Maximize Comp Mining, what you'll notice is the amount of USDC or the amount of Tether I can borrow here. So I can actually get it up to about 550. And that's something I can borrow off of $184. And you must be wondering, how is that possible? And that's because I'm lending something that I've borrowed, which is sort of in its nature a leveraged transaction. And so this tool really allows you to, as you can see, it says folding your position about 4x. You can take your 180 bucks and then I can, borrow, say, 550. So now my total position here is 730, and I have this 550 that I've borrowed. So really, I end up with 550 plus 733 collateral. So you can see that this is a pretty powerful tool here where I end up with a whole lot on the books with a whole lot less than that in collateral. Now, there are a ton of risks here. You can see here the status is extremely risky here. You definitely don't want to be this close to your max, 74.7 out of 75, because there are potentially different ways that these stablecoins can fluctuate in value on any given day, and that would mean that you would end up owing more, or the collateral factor could change. This is not a passive position you want to take. This isn't something you just set it and forget it, especially if you're running this high of collateral factor, this high of a debt ratio. This is way too risky. I would not recommend it. But say you wanted to do like 300, that's still pretty risky. Maybe 250, 250. And here you'd end up with something, around 57%. So if I do 250 here, I'm at 57%. I get 433 DAI and 250 Tether. And that's actually quite a bit, right, of liquidity I've created. Anyway, guys, as you can see, this is not a toy. This is not something you should just play around with. This is a very powerful tool. It does a lot here, and you should really take some time to understand what's happening and the different ways that this can turn bad on you. Now, to offset the risk of this comp token going down in value, the real galaxy brains among us are going to FTX, which is a futures trading exchange, and they have now a market where you can short comp. If you're constantly earning comp and you're actually putting it all on FTX with a 1x leveraged short, you're essentially always locking in your gains. You won't make money if comp goes up, but essentially what you're doing is you're forever locking in your current net value of comp. So if I lock $300 of comp into this with a 1x short, even if the price of comp goes down, my actual account value will remain the same. This works the same if you do this with a 1x short leverage of Bitcoin. If you're doing futures for Bitcoin, you can lock in a 1x short, and that will essentially shield you from volatility. You could even do that with your whole account, and you would be completely shielded from volatility. You won't make money going up, but you won't lose money going down. So this is a really interesting way, if you're really worried about this sort of comp token crashing, that you could shield yourself from it. Yield farming through Compound with the InstaDApp method, trying to make sure you don't overexpose yourself on risk. Definitely make sure to evaluate the risks. Again, this is not financial advice, guys. I'm just explaining to you some of the crazy behavior that's been happening here in crypto land. And then taking that comp and immediately putting it on FTX and shorting, that would be one way for you to sort of hedge your bets here if comp does have a big price crash, as it's still in a very early stage and volatility is extremely high. So this is sort of the galaxy brain approach that I've seen being taken here in DeFi land. And I think it's just so fascinating to see a new technology, a new protocol, a new platform like Compound allowing for these flash loans, allowing for stacking flash loans, seeing data-driven, algorithmically balanced interest rates, and then now a governance token, which is creating its own surge of value and sort of offsetting the risks of these actual loan programs. It's a lot to take in, but it's something that you need to start learning about, because this is, in my opinion, the beginning of the future of finance. And although if you really pace out and calculate out your gains that could come from this, you might find that those gains aren't worth the risk of participating. While you can get up to, a 60% or above APR on any given day, is that really worth losing all your funds? Because we do know there is an existential risk here. On the converse side, you have this amazing suite of intersecting tools, governance tokens, and values, algorithmically determined interest rates. It's something that's so exciting and new that I believe it's something that we should all start learning about, if not participating in, at a very small level, just to start understanding how the whole thing works. Also, I wanted to touch base on this whole Crypto.com situation. If you guys have been following, Crypto.com recently had a big scandal where their Wirecard AG, which is their card processing company, filed for insolvency. They had a big accounting scandal. And, they just wanted to assure everyone that, the fiat funds are safe. And then, of course, the crypto funds are also safe. And, they're going to be essentially doing everything they can to ensure the safety of funds. And they're going to be transitioning to a new credit card processor, a new vendor, actually. So this morning, they shut down Wirecard in the UK. the EU UK cards are going to stop working, but all customers will receive 100% credit back to their crypto wallets within 48 hours, and they're moving to a new vendor. So yeah, we're going to keep you updated on the situation. All in all, you can't always control what your business partners do, so I don't think this is necessarily the fault in any way of Crypto.com, but I'm curious what you guys think. Do you guys still trust Crypto.com? Are you guys still using it? I personally have always been very impressed with their project, but this is some really unfortunate news, so we'll see how they navigate this situation. But yeah, like I said, I'll be doing a full video sort of covering this whole situation and talking about its implications. As always, I'll do my best to get to the bottom of the situation and bring you some good information. So is DeFi a bubble? This is a question that I think goes hand in hand with all of these different new tools and the excitement around the DeFi space. I've heard reports that at conferences, blockchain conferences, pretty much all anyone wants to talk about is DeFi. So is this new rush of excitement, kind of like the 2017 altcoin bubble, is this a bubble right now? I think it's pretty hard to say one way or the other whether DeFi is a bubble right now. It's so brand new, all of these concepts, that it would be pretty hard for it to be in a bubble phase yet. That's not to say that it couldn't become a bubble in the future or that there aren't plenty of projects that will fail in the space. Obviously, we know that it could easily become a bubble in the future, and there are probably tons of projects that will fail in the space. But that said, this is a really, really fascinating moment, perhaps a golden era of cryptocurrency that is really the birth of this new decentralized finance phase. And as we know, finance is one of the biggest global industries, and certainly all of global finance is not here on the blockchain yet. So I still see huge room for growth here. So to answer it in short, no, I don't think DeFi is in a bubble yet, but I think it could mature into something like that in the future. But I'll turn the question back over to you. Do you think DeFi is a bubble? Do you think what's happening right now is sustainable? Do you think that it's too risky, or are you curious enough to want to try out some of these borrowing and lending schemes, these yield farming schemes that the true Chads are doing? What do you guys think, and are you going to play ball in this brave new world? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, I hope this video was both informative and enjoyable. And as usual, my name's Elio Trades. If you're not already subscribed to FUD TV, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and click that little bell notification. That way you're made aware whenever I put out new content. Also, it's super easy and free to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you've watched it this far through, I'm assuming you guys liked at least a little bit of it. So do me a favor and hit that like button. As usual, thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.